Thank you. Everybody can see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Is the right hand on my screen the sort of view of everybody is blocking the screen? But I assume that doesn't happen for you.
Correct.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you for having us. We are excited about where the project is going. We do have a really great option that is mostly new school for the high school building and the high school functions, and we're excited to be able to show you that tonight. A lot of work has gone into getting this far, and there's still a whole lot of work to do to round out the schematic design phase of the project. But right now we got some fun things to show. So for that, we'll go to the next slide. So the idea here is really that anything to the right, we can see my cursor here. This is the existing auditorium right here. So that's kind of an orienting point. The cafeteria is up in this building and the central admin is over here. And the idea here is that this 3-story building over in this section of the image can become a new high school building that's attached to the existing auditorium. Then we're adding a little bit more over in this section. I'm going to go through the floor plans in just a second to give you a little bit more detail on how the floor plans lay out, but the gyms are all saved and renovated, and the auditorium will be saved and renovated. And then this building here, which is going to become the admin and non-high school program building, will house the early education, the Burlington Early Education Center, BCAT, the Science Center, some more forward-facing central admin components on the first and second floor, and some training rooms and things like that. So this becomes an exciting building that is gained through the process of taking out the middle of the existing high school that doesn't really serve the needs of the community anymore because it's a little bit small. It also has a lot of spaces that are interior without windows and a lot of vertical change in elevation, which makes the building very difficult to modify for accessibility needs and to modify for current high school use. So that's kind of the lay of the land. It's the massing, as we say. A lot of this is being evolved right now. We're working on windows and doors and program elements and things like that. But for all intents and purposes, this is how the site lays out. So going back to a straight down view, like satellite image, basically, you can see here that this is the site plan that we're working on right now. And the admin building is right here now. The current parking lot here with the rock faces that have some art on them. And then the gyms, which are down on this site, are over here. And then the entry road that comes from Cambridge Street is up on this road. So the proposed option doesn't really change the circulation of roadway up into the point where just past the student lot. And then once you get past the student lot, there currently is, I think it's referred to as the horseshoe or the little turn in there that comes in for the main entry to the building. So that would go away, and we would build this new addition, which is the beige color here, and then an addition on this side, which is a beige color. In this diagram, north is directly straight up on the page, and south is down on the page. And so the building is sort of coming out and orienting itself to a south exposure, more southerly exposure, which is good for sustainability and sustainability and energy use of the building. We're also trying to break down the massing of the building as you arrive at it. So from the Cambridge Street coming down the access road, we have a nice arrival where you kind of go past two smaller ends of the building, which helps kind of break down the scale. And then we're introducing a new lane for drop-off for parents and a dedicated separate bus loop for buses to increase some of the safety and pedestrian flow on campus. And overall, we're going to increase the parking on the site by around 39 spots or so with this plan. The changes are all, you can see this loop road that goes around here. That loop road already exists today, and there's no changes being made to that other than maybe a facelift on the surface of it, just to repave it and give it a nice new finished look. And all of the interventions that we're talking about for the site happen within that envelope of the road that's already there. So no further encroachment out towards the lot lines or the abutters. The building kind of stays pretty much contained where it already is, except for the sort of easterly expansion of the high school building itself here, which you can see in this diagram. Taking a look deeper dive, so we're zooming back down into the first floor. This is the main floor level for the building. Now there is one lower than this, and you'll hear me call that the lower floor. That's the actual floor that the gyms are on, and so today that's the lowest elevation of the floor of the site, topographically speaking. But this building right now that we're proposing is the first floor. There is a lower level that we've proposed underneath this section, which is the cafeteria. And this little section 6 that you see out here would be an opportunity for some outdoor dining that the district has been talking to us about. And so what you see here is the red areas are more of the admin type spaces. The sort of purplish color here is the auditorium spaces, the music performing arts spaces. So we've got auditorium, band, music, chorus, photography, ceramics. Those are all art programs. And so the auditorium, anything inside this red box, that's all stuff that's going to be renovated and made new and fresh with the project, existing to remain, renovated scope. Anything that's outside of that is going to be new and added scope. And so part of the project has to deal with the accessibilities of the auditorium because the slope down to the stage is too steep. So we're going to be looking at ways to mitigate that. And then you can see the classroom wings layout here where all the classrooms start to lay out and the art creates a second wing. Now, you can see down in this overlay that there's a dashed line here, and that's the building above. As it goes up, we kind of use some architectural elements to pull the building out a little bit and create more space on the second and third floors. And down on the first floor, we're able to create sort of a more patio at like outdoor learning environment that's covered or an outdoor learning environment that's between the two wings, just taking advantage of some of the natural building or natural features of the site here. And so, so we're still working on some of these things. We need to keep pushing, but for all intents and purposes, this is how it lays out, and it stacks pretty cleanly up from here. Media center's in blue here. That's just a fancy way to say library. And again, the pinkish areas are administrative spaces. And on this wing, you can see a distributed assistant principal model, which then there's one of those in the same location on all 3 floors to help sort of monitor the operations of the building. These are the second and third floors, respectively. The second is on the left-hand side. The third floor is on the right-hand side. The second floor is, again, mostly general ed classrooms, and then the first floor as well. And then the third floor is a lot of science rooms. And so what we've been doing most recently was starting to program out the departmental nature of science, that it wants to be co-located for the symbiotic relationships that happen between the science programs. And those science rooms are actually pretty specific to science itself. And the difference between those are that they're larger than the general ed classrooms, and the general ed classrooms for things like math, English, social studies, foreign language, those can all be co-located by department or distributed however the school wants to distribute those, but they're all sort of the same size and on the other floors. And so the very, very top of the building has this science floor, along with the sort of salmon color here is SPED, special education programs, and those are spread throughout the building. both vertically and on the floor plate itself, because the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education likes to see that dispersed throughout the building in that way. And then the last slide here shows the lower level, which now you can start to see the gyms come out to life, locker rooms, dance, wrestling, all of that stuff, district storage, and anywhere you see MEP, that's like the back of house boilers and systems that help keep the building comfortable. And then this turquoise color here is the servery, kitchen, food storage, and cafeteria that is on the lower level, allowing for some outdoor dining, but also a good relationship to some of these larger spaces down here that are serving that would be for the gyms if you're having large space assemblies or anything like that, or if the town needs to temporarily bring emergency services in, then you've got a good location here to do that with the cafeteria, food service, and gyms all on the same floor with locker rooms. So that's kind of the update for us here. We're excited to show these. There's a lot more kind of in-depth discussions of these the building floor plans and design scheme through the building committee website. This will be posted there as well. But this is the clean, sort of rounded up version to get people up to speed on where the design is. And it's starting to get pretty exciting. So with that, Catherine, I don't know if we want to turn and take some questions or if you have any comments.
No, absolutely. Like I said, I'm really excited that we were able to change the design with it not being the, let's say, triangle going out. I appreciate you all listening to us and trying to come up with something that I feel would allow some of the space that I didn't think was going to work in the triangular shaped one. I think it was lacking some of the space that we required. So this is exciting that we were able to come up with a design that will help us have the right educational space. So again, anyone either, anyone online, put your hand up. If you have a question, please feel free to ask a question, and we'll ask anyone in the room if they have a question. But please identify yourself if you do have a question, and we'll take you in order that we kind of see the hands go up. Anyone in the room? Questions? There's no one in the room with a question. Anybody online?
No hands currently.
So
Anything anyone else wants to add?
yeah, no. One thing I will add is this presentation and video will be posted to the website, which I think is a useful tool if members of the public are looking for kind of more in-depth discussion. I know during an SBC meeting, it can be kind of disjointed as to what's going on. This will allow people, I don't know, this has been going on for 15 or 20 minutes, a nice way to just hear the architect explain what we're trying to do. So I think it's a useful tool. And we will certainly publicize that through the website. And I think I see Nikki online. I'm sure they'll get a mention. Nikki, I'm asking you to put a mention in the Burlington Buzz. So
and BCAT's recording it for anyone if you want to say that they can view it on BCAT and YouTube like they usually do. And also wanted to let everyone know, our working groups, when we're talking about all the design, we have working groups that are meeting weekly. Sometimes, I think I've attended 2 or 3 meetings a week on some of them, some of the other members as well, to discuss again with the teachers and the particular department heads to make sure that we will, give them the space, the educational space that they need to, again, service these students the best we can. And then, of course, as we get farther down the road, we start talking more about other types of design specs to try and make it environmentally friendly. Also, then kind of the coloring, the windows, all that kind of stuff that you kind of talk about later down. But first, we have to really get where we want the classroom so that they serve the students best, to teachers as best we can, and in keeping that all within, the regulations that are required. And I think, again, this was a good compromise, I guess, based on all the time we spent to try and make something that I think that the town can really be excited about. The kids are getting a new school essentially, and we're able to, be able to update some of the other spaces, which, we think we can do a good job with updating the gyms and the auditorium and keep some of the existing space. And I think we're really going to have a good community center with the other building being separated for the community can really take advantage of with BCAD and the other space that will be in the other building. So I just think we can get very excited about this project, and I hope everyone gets out there and tells everyone what's going on and has them go to the website and come to our meetings and ask questions. And we have some people that are still asking us questions online, and we're responding to them within a couple of days. So I think someone actually asked recently if we could add a swimming pool. They want to add a swim. It was students who were asking for the pool, to be honest with you. They are students who are graduating and they're tired of practicing over at Shawsheen and would like a pool. So I asked the question, and of course I got a big no, but I do ask the questions, and if there's something we can do to accommodate a request or an idea that's out there that we can fit in, then we're trying to do that, because in the end, we want this to be a design that is going to last us the next, 50 years, and get us up to, to the year 2000 in terms of our technology and what's available for the students and the teachers. So, they could be better prepared for life, in general. So, Sharon. Come on up to the mic, please.
I'm Lori, just going as a resident, 20 Arlington Road. So I was crossing the high school last week when school was getting out, and I noticed how congested it is with the buses and the cars. So I'm trying to visualize if you extend AR8 down towards the student parking lot a little, where are the buses coming in? Are they still coming around? You said they're going to have a dedicated lane, but is the dedicated lane going to intersect with the cars at all? Because I saw cars all over the place. And, as you know, my son was a walker, so we never experienced any of the congestion, but it's a madhouse, literally.
Chris, are you able to put the slide up again? We're still working on the flow of things. The general is going to be what you saw, but I think if, maybe you can use your cursor to kind of show the flow of things for her, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so essentially the cars queuing would come through. So there's only one road in, right? So there's naturally a mixing point of the road in, because we don't have access from any other direction through the neighborhoods. And so what we're trying to do here, you can see this sort of fork in the road. It's currently designed to have one way out, which is leaving the site. This is exactly the same way it functions today. But once you get just to the other side of that fork, the road we're using every inch of the available width of that road so that we can make a pull in. This is a little bit of a widened road towards the actual school itself, and a lane that gets dedicated for pickup and the backup that happens for queuing of cars. And so that can come essentially from that point. You see the orange lines all the way down. And, as people learn this new flow, this is a new road that doesn't exist right now because the building is here. But what it's doing is getting the cars that are here for pickup out of the way and off into this zone. They pick their child, their student up, and then depart clockwise out the road, just like you do today. Simultaneously, what this allows for is for buses to kind of come in and pass by on the left-hand side of that car queuing and extend and current, like go all the way around the building. And then they have their own dedicated bus lane here to pull into and collect students there. And that's because when the buses pull in and stop, they put their flashers on and their, stop signs, and everything just comes to a screeching halt, which is part of the issue of the site currently, is when they come in and come around, and they're on this sort of backside parking lot, and they stop everything while they're loading. And then when they go, everything can start back up again, because the only way through the site is through that function. So the current scheme here, which has been talked about in a couple of different site planning and logistics working groups, is the operating idea right now. And there are a few iterations to this that we need to keep working on and thinking through. But the idea, I think, to answer the question, is that if we can make this dedicated lane that increases the available queuing, which also gets the buses out of where the cars need to go, then that eliminates this all of a sudden shutdown and stoppage of everything when the buses are actually loading. So still more work to do, but that's where we're at the moment.
Did that help, Sharon?
Do you actually have the room to expand?
Expand.
To expand, what do you mean by that?
There's not, we're adding the road in the middle,
Can I-
which
Yeah,
then,
because
yeah.
the building's not there.
Touch the screen, remember?
Or I can look at that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this section here where this road is where the existing building currently is, and so that's where we're making a new drive aisle for cars only.
So Chris, the cursor's a little hard to see. So
Touchscreen.
I'm not gonna touch the screen. So this is the existing road, right? Everybody's familiar with this. This is the existing loop. None of that changes, right? But presently, there's a building right here. That's gonna go away. There's the auditorium, right? So what will end up happening is you come down this road, we're gonna build a new road here. And this becomes a dedicated parent-student drop-off, yeah? So as cars, they will queue here, buses will continue to go as they do now all the way around, but there's a separation now, right? So they will come around. Yes, there is another intermingling point here, but as buses come in, there's a stop sign there. They then, if you can't see it here, but I can, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, there's 10 buses that fit in this loop. So the first bus would come in, park. The next one would come in, park. And at drop off, I'm pretty sure this is what happens, or this is what happens at a typical school when they have this. All 10 buses will eventually be there. They'll all drop off. Parent-student drop off will be continuing. And then at some point, the buses are going to be wheels up. And so traffic is going to have to stop here. All 10 buses will exit, and then cars will follow them. And then they will go out and out and out again. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So
Right. It's a difficult site, but getting separation between cars and buses, this does achieve that. And I know the madhouse that you're talking about. I think everybody in this room knows the madhouse of pick up and drop off. This will be a substantial improvement to that. I don't think it could get worse.
There is a hand online, if you want that.
Pardon me?
There's a hand online.
Oh, yes.
So Sarah Colley, I've
Sarah.
requested on mute. So
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you to the committee and the team for all the work that's been done so far and for having another community forum. I did just have a question around the costs. And as the design is being refined, if there's any updates to that in terms of overall and what that means to the average taxpayer. I know it's not the funnest topic to talk about, but do think it's something that we should all be keeping at the forefront And also, second part of the question, if there's any timing around how that funding is I don't know, sought out. Basically, it's my understanding that it would go to town meeting first, I believe in September, and then there'll be an election for debt exclusion. But if there's some overview or general just overview of on all that, that would be great. Thank you.
I can answer that.
Yeah. I'm going to let Terry answer that because we've had some meetings set up and meetings that we've already had. And we will give a more detailed update, but I'll go ahead and let Terry fill you in.
Yeah, so Sarah, good question. In terms of cost updates, I would say what we presented at the end of PSR remains. The design is now being worked on, and obviously we've changed things, but our plan is to complete what will be called a schematic design cost estimate package that will go to a couple, an estimator, as well as ideally a construction manager on or about July 21st. We're going to give them about 3 weeks to come back with those estimates and present those to the building committee. And the intention is, provided the building committee approves that will go to the select board to be put on a warrant for town meeting to approve that. And that meeting is September 29th. On the basis that that is approved at town meeting, we will end up having the need for a special election for a debt exclusion. And the timing of that, I think, is soon after that fall town meeting. But in the interim right now, I have meetings scheduled with both Ways and Means on the 4th of September, and then meeting with the select board on the 9th of September to kind of hash out all of those details. And as and when those get firmed up, we will certainly present those. And, so it's a great question. I'm glad you asked, because now people will understand what is going on in the background. But that is generally the schedule that we're working under right now. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. And full disclosure, I'm on the select board, so I appreciate all the information.
Yeah, no, great. I was aware of that.
Anyone else online?
Yeah.
Nope.
Uh-oh.
Frank Monaco.
Troublemaker.
He's saving the zinger for me.
Throw the fish now.
Thank you. Frank Monaco. I'm on Ways and Means with Doug and in town meeting. I have two fundamental questions, one a little bit detailed. So one of the issues in this whole building has been the condition and the need for upgrade of HVAC and the heating and all of that. And I'm assuming between Chris and Terry that are we looking at 2 new heating plants? What's the approach to renovating the heating and ventilation system in this proposal?
Can we take that, Terry?
I do.
That's a yes.
Yeah, so currently we are planning for the 2 buildings to be separated. And I think there may be some communication lines or something that connect the 2. But they will inherently have their own systems, which means they can be sized a little bit more appropriately for the building that they're serving, and tuned appropriately for the program and functions that are happening within. So,
Okay, so basically, we're going to get an all new HVAC system, both in new and in renovated spaces, which is,
Yes,
one of the things that I think is key. So related to that, if you look at your schematic, look at your aerial view, and in the colors, you got the beige, the white, and the demo area, and the blue. It looks like on a square footage basis, there's a lot of existing space that's saved and if fully renovated. Now, I realize a lot of that square footage comes out of the gym and the auditorium, but those are fundamental buildings, and we're saving them and renovating them. So the renovations for that and the admin area, those renovations, do you consider them to be at the level that you get if you, hit all the coding requirements and all the MSBA requirements, that would really be bringing the renovated spaces up to a new level, a high quality, current state of the art level, even though it's in the old space.
Yeah, that's the idea, that we would renovate them. The truth be told, the gyms are actually pretty easy to do because they're pretty wide open and they're not terribly difficult. So systems, lighting, all of that stuff will be brought up. I think we're planning for, new coat of paint. I think the floors are actually in pretty good condition
New.
there, so we might not do much on the gyms. The admin building, or the sort of upper end non-high school space, will get a facelift, but we're not talking about a full gut renovation of that building, because we don't need to. We need to do some things. We need to bring it up to code, and the nature and magnitude of the work will require that, period, even if we didn't change program over there at all. Because it's one building and we're doing everything here, we have to can't just leave it alone. So the mechanical systems would be new, and it'll feel, my goal with all of this is to try to make as light a touch as possible on the existing but renovated portions of the building, but do it in a way that it really feels new to you all. And so that's the idea: save scope, save money, but don't cut corners, and really breathe new life into the building that will last as long as we possibly can and make it feel new.
Okay, I appreciate that. One of the benefits of quote AR8 add reno is the reno portion gets at the heart of preserving what we can, bringing it up to 21st beyond century standards, and making it fully useful. I mean, it gives us a tremendous amount of useful space that we have today, but it's not necessarily in the best shape. And so between the new heating systems, electrical, lighting, maybe wherever flooring needs to be done, ventilation in the renovated areas, I think that's a huge plus for the town, and will help us gain the support of a lot of people that have had a great deal of concern about why you're tearing down a perfectly good building. And the idea is, don't tear down what shouldn't be torn down. And I think you seem to be headed in that direction in a great way, from what I can hear and see. So I think that's good. And the other thing I'd just like to comment is, if I look at what's going to be demoed, and I think you said it, Chris, what we're actually just wiping out needs to be wiped out. It's the worst of the worst in terms of it's closed in, it's boxed in, it's old, it's interior, and opening that center section up through demo, yet not demoing that much of the building, seems to be you called it a compromise, I think, Catherine. Just you've come up with, I think, is a really good solution. I can't see a better way to do it, and I think it's meeting the needs of what we want. So I laud that. Connected to that, this is the last thing, because I know my 5 minutes or 3 minutes is up. We had a lot of issues with the notice of intent and wetlands and conservation areas and whatnot, and so a lot of work was done to figure out, how far we could push the envelope of the wetlands area and all that. And the way this is laid out, essentially all of those concerns, I think, completely go away. And I know conservation probably needs to weigh in one more time on this, but I'm hoping that we have a really, a green board on conservation concerns and needs. And do you think that that's the case, gentlemen? Do you think that's where we're at?
So let me caveat and say that before the end of schematic design, we will make a tour. I don't think we'll officially start board reviews and permitting processes until the project is fully funded, and then early in design development, we're going to start pushing into that. But conservation is just one of the boards that we need to stop through, including planning and others. But specifically on conservation, with the A&Rs, and the process that was developed around that, we really know with pretty good detail where the wetlands are today. What we did find through that is that the wetlands have changed since the last time that process was done. And I'd expect them to continue to change. But the buffer of the road and everything, sort of where the high school physically sits, if you consider that kind of an island on the actual parcel, is pretty well defined. I think we're definitely, as those A&Rs produced the limits, we're outside of the 100-foot buffers. The sort of closest thing on this plan that would be that we got to keep an eye on is the 200-foot river setback from the river up on the in this plan, the north side of this plan, running through. It comes about halfway through the gym here, but we're outside of that, as you can tell here. And so, yeah, we're keeping a close eye on that. I think as we're drawing right now, we're in a pretty good location, a pretty good spot, but we still have some boxes to check as we get through the rest of schematic design. So
Hey, that sounds great. And all of the concerns around Varsity Field, it's sort of, Captain Obvious here, but Varsity Field is essentially being, if anything, improved, but in no way disrupted. And, there's nothing to mitigate there except possibly do some field house work. So I think that's a huge plus.
yeah,
Even the students felt that way.
Bathroom,
Bathroom.
big thing.
Yeah, I got it. Bathrooms. But, even the students kept saying, don't touch Varsity Field. We love it. So I think that's we finally got there. So thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
no, and Frank, I'd like to just build on some of your comments. In that drawing that you just took away from me, Chris, up in the
Sorry.
top, it's all right, up in the top right-hand corner, and these plans will be on our site, but in the top right corner, I believe that is sort of the description of square footage that's either renovated or new. And I'm going to come at this from the perspective of a school designed for 1,100 students. Under the MSBA, you would probably get approximately 220,000 square feet, right? You'd have a functional gymnasium, you would have an auditorium, but that would be the size of it. And I think one of the advantages that we have here is that we have the ability to keep what we want that is super valuable, not just to the school, but to the community as well. So the fact that we can keep 2 gymnasiums, which you would never, ever get in an MSBA project unless you just paid for it yourself, and keeping all of the central admin, which MSBA does not fund either. That's always to the town. The fact that we can keep all of that space and utilize it and create a campus, because we're not in the MSBA with their guidelines where they wouldn't fund it anyway, is a real differentiator from this project to be able to have the size of the high school and have the number of gymnasiums and have your central admin and all of those community programs effectively renovated is a huge positive that most schools don't have the ability to even contemplate. So and it's taken me a long time to I think see that, but through all of this work, I see it now, and as it's developing, I think it's pretty exciting for the town.
And I do want to bring up, I hate to always compare us to other towns, but you look at Lexington, for example, who does have an MSBA funded project, and MSBA is funding, a portion of it, but their town is putting in as much money as we would for this whole project, in addition to the MSBA money in Lexington, to get all the things that they're not getting from MSBA. So I kind of want to point that out when you look at our $320 to $340 million project, and there's a $600 and something odd million.
662.
Exactly. They're paying the rest, and it's probably more than what we're going to pay for what we're doing here from their town. And I wanted to kind of point that out because we've been compared to Lexington a lot. And I think with this plan, we're going to bring our teaching space up to that kind of quality so we can continue to have the educational space to be competitive with Middlesex County and, you know, the rest of the state. So I'm really excited about this. Yes, Doug.
So I have a couple of thoughts, and I think it's positives that are coming out of this that we need to highlight. One is the Early Childhood Center, the Burlington Early Childhood Center. I think a lot of residents don't know much about it or don't know about it. And so we probably need to educate people more about what is that space. But it is an early childhood education center that has been kind of retrofitted and crammed into a space in the high school. It wasn't really designed for what it does. And they make do with the space they have. They don't have storage. They don't have the proper bathrooms for children that age. And so by moving that center into what is now the cafeteria,
Correct.
it will be a space that's built for that purpose and to be an early childhood center. And I think that's very important. And it's a huge thing that comes out of this project that isn't directly high school related. I think the second one that Chris touched on, I think one of the things Burlington is missing is a place to shelter a large number of people in a natural disaster. And I know that through Ways and Means, we've talked about the plan for that in the past. And the plan was that people would go to the rec department and senior center over on Center Street and that little gym there. Without proper bathrooms, I believe we can't even have people overnight because of the bathroom situation there. And in the past, when I asked why don't we use the high school, why isn't that the plan? It had to do with the generator not being sized appropriately to be able to run the gyms. And there were several reasons that you couldn't necessarily house people in our gyms. But I think at this point, especially if we keep that in mind, it sounds like that becomes a space where at the same level and immediately adjacent, you'll have a food services facility, you'll have locker rooms with showers and enough bathrooms, and you would have a large open space where people could be on cots or sitting or getting away from whatever disaster. So we see lots of places around the country where people end up in a school gymnasium for a few days, and we really don't have that in Burlington. We don't have that option to help people. And this is an addition that will add that. Hopefully we never need it, but
Thank you, Doug.
Those are my two thoughts about other things that we're getting.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing up the non-educational space again. And I think we need to, again, educate people a little bit better that even though we're calling it non-educational space, the students do interact with all of those programs, whether it's, helping out and reading to the younger students or going to BCAT and grabbing the equipment and learning how to, broadcast the news and recording, the football games and the basketball games. And they're definitely learning skills that, may get them into college because they got that experience. So I think that, again, tying all that together and letting people know why we're keeping that space, it is advantageous for our students to still have that nearby. To have those learning experiences that aren't, class experiences are very important as well. And it gives us a place for the community to still be able to gather, and it keeps it separate from the school to keep people safe, et cetera. So, but Doug, really appreciate you pointing that out, having a place to go, because I hadn't really thought about that, to be honest with you. So that's great. Anyone else in the online who has a question or a comment? Thank you, Frank.
No hands.
See what? No hands? All right. Anyone else want to add anything? You two?
Nope. I'm good.
All right. Well,
In favor.
I will, don't want to just keep people for the sake of keeping people on till 8:00. I'm sure we all have things we want to do. So again, thank you all who attended remotely. Thank you for everyone who came in person. And I'm sure we will have another community meeting at some point to give an update on what's going on. Please attend our meetings. And town meeting members, we welcome you. We welcome anyone to come, and please continue to write and give us your ideas and your comments. So again, thank you very much, and we will end the meeting now.
Thanks.